Today I'm going to talk about pegs. If you're working on antique furniture, you're trying to figure out what type of wood to make pegs out of. There's different types. I usually use beech wood. I make my own. You can see this one's been made out of oak because we can tell by the grain. But it's the type of the part of the oak that is soft. It's the outer edge of the oak tree. You can see how it splinters and it's soft. This is the thing about making these pegs is depending on what kind of wood you're working with, whatever you're putting together. If you're putting together different stuff, the type of peg to select to make. I usually make my own because I don't like to buy pegs because they make them out of other stuff, and sometimes you'll get wood that's got flaws in it and stuff, so I cut my own pegs down. If you're going to be making something like repairing a gun stock or fixing a crack in something, you'll want to use a real hard part of the beech wood. If you use the strongest part of the beech wood, then it will go in and it'll be like a nail. It won't come back out. If it's something that you're not wanting to take back apart and you want it to hold forever, and it's going to be a one-time thing, then you'll want to use some beech wood. If you use the hardest part of the beech wood, and once it's in, it won't come out, and it's pretty strong. It's almost as strong as a nail. But when working with furniture, and you got these old-timey style larger pegs, you usually want to use a softer wood, because with furniture you usually want to repair it eventually, somewhere down the road, 50, 100 years, maybe 200 years. You want to fix that chair to where somebody can fix that chair if it tears up. So what they did is they thought ahead of time and they used the soft part of the wood. See how that splinters? It's a very soft part of the oak. This is usually found on the outer layers of the oak where it's real soft, and it's got a lot of pores in it. But now you can use maple. I use a lot of maple wood. You can use oak, but anything that's soft and malleable and splinters real easily, but is strong. If you take it and try to bend it, make you want to try to bend it and see how much pressure it's got, then that's what you want. You want one that won't bend, but it's soft and malleable. You can see this one's malleable. It just kind of mushes up when you hammer on it, and it just kind of splinters, but it don't break. It's soft wood. Maple's pretty good if you find a real white maple wood that's real soft. What that does is when you put it into a piece of furniture, if you're working with oak or something, you put that soft peg in and it's like a cork. It goes in and you can mal it in, and then as the moisture levels and stuff changes, it will swell up into the hole, and it'll stay real tight. But it's a soft wood. It's soft enough to where the stronger wood around it will not split if it swells. If you get a real strong wood and it swells, it'll split the furniture that it's pegged into. So you want a soft wood, and that way when it goes in, it'll be like a cork. It'll swell up and it'll fit into wherever you're putting it, and it'll form inside of it. And it'll be like putting a cork in a bottle. It's what you're it's the basics of what you're doing. And once it goes in, it'll swell up and it'll fit tightly inside, but it won't swell up so tight that it'll crack the outside of the board that it's inside of. So what you're doing is you're getting a soft wood but a strong wood, and it's basically the basics of like putting a cork in a bottle. Once it goes in, It'll stay in there, and it'll move with the wood, but it'll be soft enough to where the outside wood around it will not crack, and it'll be able to move around inside there according to the temperature and the conditions and the humidity, but it'll be soft enough to where it won't crack the outside boards. Some of them will have rings put in them. Some of them will file a ring, kind of like a screw ring. You can also do this when you go to shrink your pegs. You can take a piece of small copper wire, wrap it around it, put it over a stove or a heater, and you can heat that wood, and it'll leave a ring around it. And then when you unwrap that wire, you'll have a ring just like they made them in the 1880s, 1890s. Now what that ring does is it grabs onto the glue. You put glue in there, the glue will grab into that ring and it'll hold it. So that's what that looks like. It's a little ring and it'll curl all the way around just like a spring. Now sometimes if you can find the right size spring, you can slide a spring over top of these. If you find a spring with the same diameter hole in the center, you can push your plug inside there and then dry it, and you'll have this same style spring indention. But a lot of times it's too hard to find, so you just get you a piece of copper wire and you wrap it around it real tight, and then you dry it, season it. Now this also keeps it from cracking. As they season the pegwood, it keeps it from cracking. They wrap it like that. That's an old method. You don't see that anymore, but you can still do it at home if you're making your own pegs from scratch. You can see the type of glue that they used. A lot of times they used pine pitch, and it's got this amber color to it. You may be able to see that amber color. But they would take pine pitch, heat pine tar up, and make a pitch out of it. It'll turn an amber color, and it'll harden when it cools down. What they'll do is they'll brush it onto the outside of it, they'll peck it in, and then as it cools, it'll harden up. And it's real hard, it's kind of like glass. Most of these old churches from the 1880s, 1890s, a lot of them will have this pine tar pitch. You can even see it. You can see this pine tar pitch. It sticks in an unusual way. It's just like in spots. You'll find it. It's just, sometimes they'll mix a little bit of wood dust with it. I found wood dust mixed in it just to kind of help get it to stick in, but that's usually pine resin that they used. Sometimes it'll turn black. If you look here, that's where they accidentally cook it too much. If they cook it too much and it gets too hot, it'll turn black. But if they heat it just enough to where it turns to a glue, it'll be an amber color. And you'll see that kind of amber tone to it. That's how you make your pegs for your old furniture. When taking these out, once these breaks, they will be real easy to take out because they used a soft wood. When you put a drill bit in one of these and you drill one out, if it's stuck real good, you can feel the drill bit cutting the peg. The peg will cut much easier. You'll feel it if you're getting outside of the peg. The drill bit will quit cutting, and that's how you know you're staying inside the peg. But now if the peg is loose, a lot of times you can take a hammer and you can tap on the outside of it if there's enough of it to where you can hit the edge of it, and it'll break the pine tar pitch. If you see this pine tar pitch, it'll crack it like glass, and the peg will loosen up. Then you put you a screw inside of it right here, then you put you a pair of pliers on it, and you work it. Just keep hammering it out by sliding the pliers on it, and it will pull it out. But that's the importance of making pegs. If you make them right, you can repair the furniture. If you don't make them right, it will make it a nightmare to repair furniture. You usually want to make sure your pegs is always softer than your furniture that they're going into, because if they're not and they swell up, it'll crack your furniture and you'll never be able to get these out. So if you make them out of the softer part of the wood, it will be easier to get these out. That's the secret to making your own and repairing antique furniture. So if you've got antique furniture and you're repairing it, you may want to think about more in depth on your peg making, because your peg making is pretty much everything. It holds everything together. So you want to think about the type of wood you're using, how strong it is, how soft it is. It can be too strong and it can be too soft. You want to find that sweet spot in between to where you can pull it out, repair it, and the furniture will last for hundreds of years if you use the right type of wood and you know what you're doing in peg making. That's the secret to antique furniture. A lot of people will just put any kind of peg in, then the furniture will break or come apart, and then whoever gets the chair or furniture will have a nightmare trying to repair it. So that is the secret to keeping your antique furniture working properly, is getting a soft style peg but a strong peg. That way that it will flex inside the hole and it won't crack your furniture. And it'll be easier to pull out. And that's the way all the old antique furniture was made. But that's the secret to it. And now you know.